Hey, how's it going? My name is Todd Klick, and I'm so glad you guys got up early to come out here. I know it's hard for me to roll out a bit on a Saturday and come early, so I really appreciate it. And most of you guys from LA or from other states? What other states? Vegas, all right. Any other states represented? No? Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to get going here. I'm the author of a best-selling book called Something Startling Happens, the 120 story beats every writer needs to know. I'm going to share with you some things from the book, but some other cool things I added just for this session. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I moved out to LA about 5.5 years ago. I've optioned numerous scripts, and I've sold 3 for stage and screen just in the last 3 years. And I'm going to be sharing some of the stuff that I do to grab script readers from the studios. I had this horrifying thing happen to me when I first got to LA. I was a part of this mixer, and I met a script reader for one of the major studios in town, and I asked her about what her job entailed, day to day. And she said she gets a stack of screenplays about that high, and she gets the top one, and she reads the first 10 pages, and if it doesn't grab her, she just tosses it into this trash bin about this high. And if it does grab her, then she goes to the last 10 pages, and then she thinks, okay, this has possibility, and she puts it on the possibility pile. So that horrifying, but it was enlightening at the same time. I realized, man, I gotta grab them the first 10 minutes, or I'm done. So I got my start back in Pennsylvania. I had this opportunity, which I didn't realize was really very cool at the time. I lived in this resort community, summer resort community that was so similar to Dirty Dancing. That was my setting for many years. It was great. And New York actors would come down and do summer stock in the theater there. And I would sneak in the back and watch all the plays and all the musicals. And then the guy that was running the place saw my passion for wanting to see these shows, and he let me come in for free anytime I wanted to. And then he started to give me plays to read, and I was reading all the greats and absorbing all this stuff. And I eventually wrote a play back home, which sold out venues for 3 years straight in our state's capital and cities around that area. And so that kind of launched my writing career, and then I kind of brought all that stuff I was learning into screenwriting. And so let's get into a little bit of what I want to share with you today. And we're going to tackle 2 of the greats. The greats in theater, Shakespeare, of course, and the greatest in film, Spielberg. And I'm going to share with you some archetypal patterns that I was studying. I read this great book by Mark Norman. It's called What Happens Next, A History of American Screenwriting. And before film came along, people were going to the theaters all the time. It was the best way to see a communal storytelling experience. And so a lot of the screenwriters at that time came from that mindset, or wrote plays. And so they used some of the things that they were using that into writing their scripts. And so what Mark Norman says is these archetypal narrative patterns that they were using, they arc back way back to the Greeks. And the classic movie narrative was structurally simple but capable of countless variations applicable to drama or comedy, parsed out of the best A pictures. So we're going to go back to 1599 right now. And there's a guy named William Shakespeare, and he is a writer and he's an actor. And he gets married at age 18 and already has 3 kids by the time he's 25. And he wants to put money, he's taking a big risk, put money into making this theater with a bunch of other actors and investors. He gets 12.5% of this investment. So it's a huge gamble for him. And here's a little bit of what the globe looks like today. And Shakespeare had a unique angle to this whole thing. Not only was it a primal thing for him to make money in this thing, but he was an actor on the stage with, you had the upper echelons there of the wealthy people surrounding you, scrutinizing what you're doing. You had the commoners come in standing for sometimes 4 hours at a shot on the ground, and that's where they got the nickname, the Groundlings, which there's a comedy troupe in town here that borrowed from that name. And literally, some people would have their elbows up on the stage looking right at you, and if you didn't come through, you'd get vegetables thrown at you. So it was trial by fire for this guy. He's learning firsthand that if I don't do this one thing instinctually right here, I'm going to lose the audience, and I'm going to lose my investment, I'm going to lose maybe my home, my family. So what he does, he starts infusing this into his writing. And here's another angle of the globe. You can kind of see on that stage, the crowd of people, all eyes on you. You got to make things happen. So one of the things Shakespeare does, as well as Spielberg, and I'll give you a bunch of examples here, is minute one is what I call attention. They do something that involves tension, that grabs your attention. And the best writers choose 5 ways to do this. They use either danger, anxiety, hostility, unease, or sex. And I'm going to shut the lights off here so you can see some of these clips. I'll show you what I mean. During minute one of Hamlet, Bernardo wonders who lurks nearby in the dark. Bernardo is he's a guard for for the castle there, and he's in a cold, chilly night, and he's by himself, and he hears something out there in the darkness, and he wonders what it is. So right away, Shakespeare grabs you with there's a dangerous element there. There's anxiety in Bernardo. There's unease. Spielberg, we got Raiders of the Lost Ark. Minute one starts out with Indiana Jones and his crew walking through the dangerous jungle. John Williams' music accompanies the scene and adds this layer of this mystery, this danger that's going on. So Spielberg, right off the bat, uses danger and unease. And then Jaws. A lot of people forget the things that lead up to the memorable things that we know in movies. In Jaws, we notice there's certain violent scenes that we remember, the shark eating people, that kind of thing. But we forget the subtle things that kept your interest to get to those points. And minute one, Spielberg, what he does is, and the writer, is they have this girl at a beach party, and she flirting with her eyes with this guy who's getting a little drunk there with his beer, and he uses sexual tension to grab our attention. We've got Jurassic Park, minute one. You have these macho guys with their guns, and there's this cage being brought through the jungle, and you get the sense of danger, you get the sense of hostility and unease right off the bat. E.T. Minute one, we have, it's the middle of the night, in the woods, nobody around, but you see a spaceship sitting there. And the way Spielberg frames it, it's as if you're kind of peeking through the trees at this strange object that's there. And if that's any one of us looking at this spaceship, we wouldn't just walk up to it going, hey, what's this? We would kind of hide behind the tree there and go, first need some caution there. So he uses danger and unease to grab our attention there. And back to Shakespeare, Othello, minute 1, Rodrigo complains to Iago that he failed to tell him about the secret marriage between Othello and Desdemona. Rodrigo is distraught because he loves Desdemona. He just finds out, like, oh my God, she got married to somebody else. So Shakespeare uses anxiety and hostility to grab our attention. A lot of new writers, I read their stuff, and they think, oh, I'll just take my time, to develop the story, and they don't have any conflict. They don't have any of these tension elements at all, and you lose interest very quickly in their story. So we're going to minute 2, and how I discovered a lot of the stuff, especially in film, is when I was researching for my book, which I didn't mean for it to be a book. I did it solely for my own betterment as a writer. But I studied in a 4-year period over 300 successful movies, and I broke them down with a stopwatch, minute by minute, because I wanted to know what exactly I was doing. So minute 2 I call the build, and Hamlet, minute 2. And there's a phrase that you can use to help you create that minute 2. It's called not only does. Not only does Bernardo wonder who lurks in the dark in minute 1, but now Marcellus, another guard, claims to have seen a dreaded apparition. So you can kind of see the build there. The first minute is the guard senses somebody lurking in the dark. Next one is another guard says, I think I just saw a ghost. Just builds it one step. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not only does Indiana Jones head deep into a dangerous jungle in minute 1, but now Indy finds a deadly arrow. See how that build one step? In Jaws, not only does sexual tension ignite between the boy and the girl in minute 1, but now the boy chases her and she takes off all her clothes. So he bumped up the sexual tension there. From flirtatious looks in minute 1 to she's completely naked and he's chasing after her. See that build? Jurassic Park. Not only does the cage beast concern the armed guards during minute 1, but now the screeching animal terrifies a worker. There's unease, there's danger, now there's terror in their eyes in the second minute. Not only is there a strange spaceship in the woods during minute 1 in E.T., but now strange creatures emerge from it to explore. And again, Spielberg frames it in such a way that you're kind of peeking at the woods, at this strange sight that's going on. Build it up enough. You got the spaceship and now strange creatures. In Othello, Iago tells Rodrigo that he is serving Othello to serve my turn upon him. Iago, if you remember the play, he hates Othello for promoting a younger guy. So Iago is planning to use Othello for his own advantage. So not only does Rodrigo scold Iago for not telling him about Desdemona's marriage to Othello in 1, but now Iago admits he's using Othello for his own advantage. He's got bad schemes afoot. Minute 3 is what I call the ratchet. When I was a kid, my dad would often be in our driveway, elbow deep in a car engine, and he would call out for me to help him out. And a lot of times he would have me get the ratchet wrench, and he would say, hey, can you tighten that bolt? So I would tighten it, and every revolution I could feel a tension in my forearm. It would increase every revolution. And that's exactly what great writers do, to keep us interested in what they got going on at the beginnings of their stories. So a phrase to help you in this minute, to build the tension even more from the previous minute, is not only that, but now. Not only that, but now a scary ghost enters the stage in Hamlet. So minute 1, we have somebody's lurking. Minute 2, the guard says, I think I saw a ghost. Minute 3, the ghost appears. See that? Boom, boom, boom. Indiana Jones, not only that, but now Satipo says, The poison is still fresh. The Vitos are near. Walking through a dangerous jungle, Indy finds an arrow sticking out of a tree. And then the arrow is poisoned, and who shot it? In a tribe or nearby. See how that the tension built? 3 steps. Jaws, not only that, but now something menacing swims towards the naked girl and bites her foot. See how quickly, just in 3 minutes, we go from flirtatious looks to that? They don't waste time at all, these guys. Jurassic Park, not only that, but now the caged beast grabs one of the men and kills him. See that step? Go from just standing, looking at this dangerous thing coming through the woods, to terror, to somebody gets killed. E.T., not only that, but now one of the strange creatures in E.T. wanders off by himself and is separated from the others. So we're wondering, what's going to happen to this guy? We still don't know. Is this a dangerous thing? Is it he's separated from the group? What's going to result from that? So we bump it up another step there. And then Othello, not only that, but now Rodrigo and Iago wake up Desdemona's father in the middle of the night. So we start out with 2 friends in this kind of tense argument to now we've escalated very quickly to they're yelling at the girl's father to wake up in the middle of the night. Can you imagine that in real life? You know what that would be like? So minute 4 is what I call another notch, another ratchet. It's a phrase to help you with that minute is if you thought that was bad. If you thought that was bad, now Horatio turns pale and trembles with great fear in Hamlet. Now we have a guy totally freaking out. And there's a ghost that's standing right in front of him. Indiana Jones. If you thought that was bad, now one of Indiana Jones's crew pulls a gun on it. As my nephew says, shit just got real. Right? Jaws, if you thought that was bad, now the shark drags the naked girl back and forth across the water. Jurassic Park, if you thought that was bad, now the family of the worker who was killed are suing for $20 million. And there's a lesson in this, an added lesson that we take from Spielberg. If your story requires you in the first 10 minutes to cut away to another scene, that doesn't relieve you of having to build the tension. A lot of times movies will take the whole 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes in the first one scene to develop the story. But sometimes you have to cut away. But when you cut away, you have to amp it up. So let's check it out again in Jurassic Park. We start guys with guns, looking at something coming through the jungle, to look of terror, to a guy gets killed, to now the guy's family is going to sue for $20 million. See that? Boom, 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 boom. If you thought that was bad, now an approaching truck frightens the extraterrestrial. And how Spielberg frames this is he makes it in such a way that we instantly know these are bad guys. And now this strange creature we've been following we actually kind of feel, he's in danger. That's how Spielberg in E.T. bumps that tension up from just these creatures meandering around the woods, exploring, to now we have a human element involved in it. In Othello, another notch, minute 4 is if you thought that was bad, now Desdemona's father yells at Rodrigo from his bedroom window saying, "She is not for thee." And Rodrigo, this is heartbreaking because he loves her. Now I've got a very important minute here, and when I learned this, it just amped up my writing tremendously. all this is leading to the inciting incident, which I'll talk about the final point, exactly what that is and what that requires. But you need these little kicker moments before you get there. If you keep building the tension in the same kind of rhythm, even that will get old to an audience. So minute 5, you have to have a little twist happen. And what it is, it's something that makes the character or the audience jaw drop. And you do this by showing the characters doing or saying something extraordinary or astonishing, something they or we have never seen before. And what does Shakespeare do? In Hamlet, Horatio says that the ghost just looks just like the dead king of Denmark, the dead father of his friend Hamlet. It's a truly jaw-dropping moment in their lives and in the audience's lives too, because not only are they seeing this ghost, but they realize, oh my God, this is the ghost of the father's ghost of my friend. It's like, holy shit, So we got Spielberg. What does he do extraordinary or astonishing that we've never seen before? He puts big, huge spiders on the back of some people's back. And Spielberg doesn't put just 5. He puts like 20 all over the guy's backs. Remember when you first saw that? You're like, oh man. And my buddy Gil, I don't know if he made it today, he's scared of spiders, don't tell anybody. And this scene totally freaked him out when he saw that. Dropped his jaw for sure. In Jaws, the shark pulls the girl underneath the water. She never reappears, kills her. I remember when I first saw that, it dropped my jaw like, oh my God. In such a short span, we go from flirtatious looks to she's yanked underneath the water by a shark. Jurassic Park. Spielberg again knows the minute 5 trick, and he amps up this moment by John Williams' music just builds. All the guys are surrounding this thing. What is in this thing they just found? And what it is, it's a 60 million year old perfectly preserved mosquito, which will be a huge part of the story in just a little bit. There's something 60 million years old that was once alive, and it can now be seen. And then in E.T., E.T. sees the humans for the very first time in his life. Can you imagine you're exploring a whole new planet, and you're walking around just checking stuff out, and you see the inhabitants of that new planet for the very first time. It's a jaw-dropping experience for them and for the audience. In Othello, Iago tells Desdemona's shocked father that his daughter and Othello are making the beast. And I looked this up. What does that mean? It's a euphemism for having sex. But what's extra shocking for the people at that time period is Othello is an older black man, and which was considered at that time, well, to this guy, his daughter is this white British girl, and she's marrying an older black fellow. That was jaw-dropping when he learned this thing, and thus kicks off a lot of the drama that's going to unfold. And Spielberg and Shakespeare aren't the only ones. This is used over and over and over in all successful movies. In 5, Sixth Sense, the jaw dropper, Anna and Malcolm, who've been flirting now, they're heading up towards the bedroom to have sex. When they get there, though, they see a half-naked man, a freaky half-naked man looking there, and he's standing there in the bathroom, just looking at him. And can you imagine that if that happened to you in real life? Pretty jaw-dropping, right? Godfather. When Sarah asks the Godfather to murder the men who beat up his daughter. It's a jaw-dropping request to make of anyone. Hey, can you kill somebody for me? Juno. Juno tells her best friend Leah her extraordinary news. She's pregnant. And Leah's mouth literally drops open in astonishment. And she learns that in 5. Top Gun was jaw dropper. Maverick's been chasing this enemy fighter pilot, In minute 5, he just does this extraordinary maneuver where he goes right over top of the guy and drops the jaw of the enemy pilot. Minute 5 in Halloween, we found out that the person who stabbed the naked girl is a little boy. Up until that moment, tension was building. We think it's some adult serial killer or maniac, and what we find out in minute 5, it's a little kid. So let's recap the first 5 minutes using a totally different movie, The Matrix. What happens in minute 1? You see a black screen, little cursor there, and we have a conversation between Trinity and Cypher. Cypher says, "We're going to kill him." Right away grabs you with danger and hostility. Minute 2, Trinity is surrounded by police. Minute 3, she wipes out the police pretty easily, and then she's on the phone with Morpheus, and she says, "Are there any agents?" And he says yes, and she goes, "God damn it." And we realize that with what we thought was she was in trouble, in real trouble, now the real trouble is just beginning. Minute 4, the agents surround her. They're in the alleyway. They're up in the other building. Now she's got to run. Minute 5, right on the dot, the police are chasing her with one of the agents, and she does this extraordinary leap, about 50 feet over a building very high, and lands on the other side. The camera pans in on the officer. His jaw drops open. He goes, "That's impossible." You get what's going on over and over and over again? That's why they keep our attention. They keep the tension building, and then they give us a little twist in minute 5. Yeah, do you mind if we hold questions?
Right to that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. I just want to make sure I get all this out so it helps you guys. Appreciate it. Now, if you've done these first 5 things in the first 5 minutes, you've gained the audience trust. They're going to go with you. Now you have a little breathing room for 2 minutes to build some characterization of relationship between the hero and his friends, his allies. And I call these next 2 minutes friend or fist. The hero or ally, or allies, bond or fight during these minutes. The next 2 minutes are about establishing the hero and ally's relationship. This is a crucial step because the ally plays a big part in the hero's life in the immediate future or later on. Because of this fact, we need to get to know him and the hero a bit better. Why? So we care what happens between them and to them further down the road. The best way to do this is by showing them either bonding or fighting together. A lot of their character comes out through that interaction. What Shakespeare did during this minute, Bernardo and Horatio wonder what to do about the ghost, or like, oh my gosh, what can we do? They're bonding over this new situation in their lives. Indiana Jones saves Satipo's life. He's about to fall into the pit. Grabs his belt there and pulls him to safety. And what does this do? This shows that Indiana Jones, we've seen that he's very brave. He knows what he wants. He knows where to go to get it. But he isn't so single-minded that he'll just let somebody die for what he wants to do. He grabs this guy's belt and pulls him to safety. Chief Brody in Jaws jokes with his wife and son, and we're like, yeah, we like this guy. He's a good father. He's a good husband. Jurassic Park, Dr. Ellie Sattler ties a handkerchief. That's how she's bonding with her boyfriend, Dr. Grant. And he's the hero in our story, and he's grumpy, and we see that he's grumpy, but we like him because he is excellent at his job. He's very passionate about it. And then if Dr. Ellie Sattler is a very nice person, and she sees something in him to the point that she's taking care of him, and we think that, well, he's got to have some kind of redeeming values, even though he's an asshole at times. E.T., what do his friends do? They totally leave without him. Huge, that's the fist part, and that's going to play into the story in a very big way later on. In 6, in Othello, Desdemona's father and Rodrigo bond over their concern for his daughter being with Othello. They wonder together where she is. They're bonding over this. Okay, now what do we? Your daughter, who I love, is taken away from Othello. What can we do about this situation? So the second part of this, Friend or Fist 2, the hero and allies bond or fight even more. In Hamlet, Marcellus joins Horatio and Bruno's conversation to try to figure out what to do about the ghost. We're getting to know them because pretty soon they're going to be going to Hamlet to tell them what's going on. Minute 7, Indiana Jones once again saves Zapito's life 2 times, which what happens very shortly is going to get to us on a core level. Chief Brody gets in his truck and smiles and waves goodbye to his family. He's like, wow, we really like this guy. He's very cool. We've got Jurassic Park. Dr. Sattler hugs Dr. Grant's arm and jokes around with him. And again, we see like, okay, she likes him and they're bonding and they love working together. E.T., Minute 7, Elliot's brother and his friends ignore him, so we get to see that Elliot, this poor kid, is kind of alone. He's not listened to. His friends just ignore him. We feel sympathy for this poor kid. It's like, oh man. And this is what I call the fist. You have the friend or the fist. This is the fist part. In Othello, Desdemona's father and Rodrigo continue to bond over their concern for his daughter being with Othello. And the conversation ends there because if you keep yammering on about the same topic for 3 minutes or 4, then it starts to get old for the audience. So Shakespeare moves it along in the next minute here. I want to pause for a second to clue you into something really, really cool that's universal, that Shakespeare uses, that Spielberg uses, all the greats use. All their heroes, in some sense, are orphaned. Their parents are both dead, or they have one of the parents are dead, or there's emotional distance in the relationship. Where their parents are never mentioned, their parents are not in their lives whatsoever. And we got Hamlet here. His father is dead. Othello never mentions his parents. Parents are possibly, since he's an older man, his parents are probably dead. Richard II, his father died. That's why he ascended to the throne. As is this case with Henry V, his father's dead. Richard III, his father's dead. Indiana Jones, mother's dead. Jaws, Chief Brody, parents are never mentioned. They're not a part of his life whatsoever. They might be dead for all we know, as is the case with Dr. Grant. Elliot is in a broken home. Father is hardly ever mentioned. Father's not part of his life, really. We got Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds. And parents not in his life whatsoever. He's divorced from his wife, and he has a cold relationship with his son and daughter. We got Oscar Schindler. His parents are dead, and he's separated from his wife. We have the character in Catch Me If You Can, Leonardo's character. His mom is dead. And Tintin is an orphan. Lincoln, parents are dead. In The Color Purple, the hero, her father beats and rapes her, and her mother dies. Tom Hanks, Saving Private Ryan, parents never talked about, they're probably dead, or just a distant relationship from them. And then we got the robot boy in AI. No parents. He's adopted briefly, but then they dump him in the woods. He's totally orphaned. Tom Cruise again. Same actor playing the same orphan, and just in a different story. In Minority Report, parents never mention they're not a part of his life whatsoever. He's also divorced from his wife. We got a young Christian Bale in Empire of the Sun. Gets stripped away from his parents at the beginning of the movie and is totally on his own. Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Parents not in the picture whatsoever, and he's estranged from his family as the story goes on. Now, why are they doing this? Why are they using this orphan thing? What's the reason behind it? Because it's a very primal thing that all of us go through at one time in our lives, where times we feel alone in our bodies, we feel alone in our quest to do what we want to do, or the journeys that we go on. And I felt this many times when I ditched everything to go live in Europe at one time, so all my possessions to go right over there. And there were times when I was totally by myself. I felt alone in the world. I was separated from my family. So when I see these characters, there's something in me on a subconscious level. I immediately gravitate towards them, or I relate to them. And they're a proxy for me to go through the story. And if they go through the story and they survive, maybe I can survive too. So use that in your story. Make these people orphan in some way. It's a great way to grab your readers on a subconscious level. So minute 8, I call something startling happens. Something startling happens to mostly the hero, and in turn the audience. The audience needs a jolt here to keep them awake until the inciting incident. This is the second part, jolt. You have the minute 5 jawbreaker. You have the something startling happens moment on minute 8. And this happens either by sight, sound, or a comment. I'll give you some examples here. In Hamlet, Horatio says that a rooster trumpets to the morn with his lofty and shrill-sounding throat. And if you've seen Hamlet, a lot of times the director will add that shrill sound right during that minute. Keeps you, jumps and makes you jump, keeps your attention. Raiders of the Lost Ark, what happens minute 8? The temple crumbles and startles Indy. Minute 8 of Jaws, the gruesome appearance of the dead girl startles Chief Brody, the boy, and the deputy. The Spielberg takes it a step more in that scene and actually shows us the dead remains of the girl. Startling moment. Minute 8, Jurassic Park, Dr. Grant pulls out a velociraptor's claw and startles the smart-ass kid with it. You actually see the startled look in his eyes. Elliot is walking back with the pizza and he hears a noise. Trash can sound. Startles him. Othello tells Iago, "But look, what lights come yon?" Iago replies, "Those are the raised father and his friends." It's a pretty startling moment. First, he got lights appearing in the darkness, and then Othello realizes it's his new bride's father who's going to not be too happy with him here shortly. Minute 9 is what I call the pursuit. Something extraordinary or astonishing that must, there's something extraordinary or astonishing here that must be pursued. The hero or his allies go into pursuit mode here, and the audience will want to follow if you properly address the steps leading to this minute. Whatever extraordinary thing the hero learns during this minute, it prods him into action. His action piques our curiosity. What's going to happen next? In Hamlet, Horatio says, break we our watch up, and by my advice, let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. They're on a pursuit to go find Hamlet and tell him what they just saw. Indy jumps the pit in pursuit of Satipo, who stole his idol. So that was the brilliance of the story. They set up Indiana Jones saving Satipo's life twice in minutes 6 and 7. So when Satipo leaves Indy hanging and to fend for himself, it makes us feel like, oh, that bastard. And we want to follow Indy as he's in pursuit of this guy that just totally screwed him over. Chief Brody goes on the march, he goes on the pursuit. He has the hardware store. He's in pursuit of supplies to make a keep off the beach sign. Ellie Sattler pursues Dr. Grant, catches up to him, and she starts asking him how he feels about having children. She wants to have children. And he's saying, no, they're a nuisance, annoyance. We followed her on that pursuit, by the way, because we saw she was a really good person. She's taking care of him. We want to follow what she's after. Elliot in E.T. walks towards the shed to find out who made the noise. And since we saw him earlier in 6 and 7, we saw that he's by himself. Nobody listens to him. We feel sorry for this kid. So we want to follow him. And we want to follow him to see if he's going to be okay. Is that noise, whoever made that noise, is it going to hurt this kid? We want to know. We want to find out. Minute 9. Othello. Minute 9, Othello. Cassio tells Othello that the Senate has sent about several guests to search you out. You're in pursuit of him. And we're going to see why shortly here in the Inciting Incident. Minute 10, in every successful movie, there's always a discussion. Someone important to the hero wants to discuss something significant. The discussion draws in the audience. When someone important to us, either a lover, a boss, a parent, sibling, enemy, or friend, approaches us with a serious face and says, I have something to discuss with you, it tweaks our interest. What's this important thing you want to talk to us about? We've all had it happen where our friend pulls us aside and said, hey man, I really need to talk to you about something. Right away, no matter what we're doing, we just have to know what's going on. And it's a trick that great writers use as well. In Hamlet, King Claudius and the Queen want to discuss why Hamlet is still sad over his father's death. Why is this still affecting you so much? You're gloomy, Hamlet. Indiana Jones, Belloc, and Indy discuss who will possess the golden idol. Very important discussion for both of them. Chief Brody and the deputy discuss the Boy Scouts who are swimming in the ocean. The deputy pulled up and tells the chief, like, hey, guess what? We know the shark's out in the water and stuff, and the Boy Scouts are out there right now. It's a very important discussion. Dr. Grant and John Hammond discuss why Hammond visited them and why he opened their champagne. And we're about to see why this discussion is pretty significant in their lives. Elliot and E.T. and his mother have a discussion about what's inside the shed. Very important discussion for Elliot. The discussion in Othello, Desdemona's father and Othello discuss his daughter. Let's come to this. Desdemona's father says, "Oh, thou foul thief, where hast thou stowed my daughter?" Very important discussion for both of them. So finally, before we, I'm going to open this up to questions then, is the inciting incident. A lot of us, well, some of us know what the inciting incident is and how to use it. A lot of us don't. I know when I first got into writing, it was a very vague thing. I'm going to break it down for you. The inciting incident, from my study of film, normally happens between 10 to 12 minutes. Usually at 12 it happens. It's a predicament that interrupts the protagonist's ordinary life. A predicament that will eventually lead to the exposure and exploitation of his flaw. The hero finds his predicament unsettling and fears it. In some cases, however, the predicament thrills the protagonist. He sees it as an opportunity. In this circumstance, his disquieted friends express fear for the protagonist. So the hero is going about his ordinary life. We see, for example, Dr. Grant in Jurassic Park. We see him doing normal things. He's an archaeologist. He's working with a team. They're digging up stuff. And then Dr. Hammond is coming in here shortly, and he's going to give him an opportunity of a lifetime. That's the inciting incident. That kind of derails him from his ordinary life. He's going to push him towards dealing with his flaw. And what is Dr. Grant's flaw? His flaw is that he does not like children. Character flaw in him. We cut to the very end of Jurassic Park. What has happened? He's gone through this horrible experience. He now has he's cradling these two sleeping children, and he has a smile and a content look on his face. He now loves kids. It's the whole main purpose of your story is to get the hero to overcome his flaw. And if he does, it's an uplifting ending. If he doesn't, it's a tragedy. But we have to learn from that tragedy. Like, okay, if we don't overcome our flaw, it's going to be a tragedy in our own lives. Indiana Jones. What's the inciting incident? Army intelligence wants to talk to Indy. And Indiana Jones, we just saw him brave. He shows a little bit of fear during this. His colleague tells him, they want to talk to you. And he said, am I in trouble? And why is fear such an important element? Why is that tied so clearly to the inciting incident? Because we're going about our ordinary lives, and we have things that happen to us. A car will wreck into us, or we get fired from our jobs, sideswipes us. And there's a moment, a lot of time, of fear of the unknown. Where is this going to lead? And sometimes an opportunity comes around, hey, I have this opportunity to, let's just ditch everything, let's go live in Italy for a year. That's very exciting for the protagonist, but you will always have, in a story especially, and in your real life, you'll have someone say, oh, you shouldn't do that, you're going to lose all your savings, you're going to do this. I remember when I decided to move cross-country to LA 5.5 years ago, Mom was convinced that there were gangs around every corner in LA here. She expressed fear, even though I was excited about it. So Hamlet, what's the inciting incident? Horatio tells him about his father's ghost. This is quite a blow. Imagine your parent dies, and when your friend comes to you and says, I just saw the ghost of your mom, your dad. And what's Hamlet's flaw? He's skeptical, his flaw is his inability to act. Hamlet is very charming throughout the movie. He has a lot of friends, but he does not act on the information he finds out from his father's ghost that his uncle killed his father. He's just very lackadaisical about that because he doesn't overcome this flaw and is inactive about that tragedy at the end. Not only does Hamlet die, but a lot of people around him die. So we learn that we can't go through life just being charming all the time. We'll get by, but if things are wrong, we have to stand up and deal with them. In Jaws, the mayor asks Brody to keep the beach open, even though he knows there's a shark in there. And what's Chief Brody's flaw is that he's scared of the water. Shortly after, we see Chief Brody, he thinks there's an attack in the water. He runs up to the water, and he won't even dip one toe into the water. He kind of looks at it with fear, goes back and forth. And we go from that fear of water, where he won't dip one toe, to cut to the very end. Chief Brody has just killed a shark, and he's swimming. And he's joking around with Richard Dreyfuss in the water. Totally no fear of water anymore in his life. The whole story is about him overcoming this fear. Jurassic Park, we just went over that. Dr. Brand, his flaw is children. He loves children by the end. Othello, but he finds out that he must defend his actions in front of the council. His flaw is he's too gullible and trustworthy of those he shouldn't trust. Iago, the guy who's trying to screw him over. Othello never catches on that he should not, he should be more wise in who he takes counsel from. At the end, Desdemona is dead. Othello goes crazy. E.T., Elliot, sees E.T. for the first time. That's the inciting incident. That will rock him out of his ordinary life for sure. And then what's Elliot's flaw? Is he's very timid around those who are older than him. He can't get his viewpoint across to his mom. He can't get it to his brother and the older friends. What happens by the end, though? Elliot is yelling at the adults and the doctors to not hurt E.T. He's ordering his brother and older friends around to help get E.T. to the spaceship. See the arc there, overcoming of the flaw? That's why it's offending. This is a little taste I wanted to share with you to help you get past script writers today. And if you want to learn more, I go into the whole shebang. I wish I had 3 days to go over everything, but I go over the 120 of these beats in my book. Something startling happens. And I also have a little ebook I use for writing treatments called the Screenwriter's Fairy Tale. But I want to open up the questions for you guys, and let me turn on the lights here. Yeah?
Yeah, what about comedy? Would you apply this to all genres, or is it simply for action movies?
Yeah, it works right across the board. That's why I showed the jaw dropper Juno compared to right side by side with Halloween, with The Matrix. They're wildly different movies, but underneath there's this mechanism happening over and over. They've been doing it, like I said, 60 times degrees. Yes?
Is your 120 beat book or book beat thing, is it like this, where it's you're basically going minute by minute?
Yeah. And I didn't mean for this to be a book. I totally did it for my own selfish reasons at the time. I want to be a great writer, and I want to affect people with my writing. So movies have a massive effect on me, and theater has a massive effect on me. So it was my own study. I break down movies with yellow legal pads to see. I started to see that, minute 30 in movies, where the hero is propelled onto his quest. And it happens over and over and over. It's like, and I started seeing these things, and it was like, wait a minute, I want to know what's in between those plot points. I want to know what's happening, so it gives me more benchmarks to write my stuff. First and foremost, though, I want to express that books and everything, they can tell you, they can guide you along the way, but the first thing you need to do is write from your gut, your passion, your soul. What you're writing needs to mean something to you. It needs to make you cry when you experience what's happening to the characters that you create. It needs to make you angry. It needs to provoke things in you. That's where you got to first and foremost write. Get that all out in your first draft. Get the subconscious out. But then, before you give it to studio heads to read, production companies, producers, make sure you tighten it up. You know what I mean? Because they, like I said, they got that stack of screenplays, and you're competing with that. So you want to make your scripts just, flow, short page turns. So, yeah.
How do you blend like exposition and then like these 10 points? And I'm just curious, like it sounds like we if we focus too much on this, then we'll get too much of the story in for this person.
Right.
How do you
I recommend doing something Hitchcock used to do. He would say to his writers, write your screenplay, get it all finished, get it all out there. And when you're finished, then add the dialogue. And I thought that was amazing insight, because that forces you to think, or that forces writers to think more in a visual way rather than the dialogue way. You want to, film is different, way different than stage. Stage allows for a lot of conversation, but film, you want to get more visuals in there. But you're going to find that, of course you want to get dialogue in there and get it out. That's what your first draft is going to be, your vomit draft, as they say. Get all that exposition, all that dialogue out there. But then when you're going back, look at your dialogue saying, is this explaining too much? Can I have a visual here that would show the same thing, and you can cut 5 lines of dialogue out? That would really help you tighten your script. Yeah?
Does this apply to TV writing?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I did this one thing with the writer's store. I broke down old Twilight Zone episodes along with Seinfeld, along with Dexter. And they were doing the exact same thing all across the board. Whether it was like a half an hour show or an hour of drama or comedy, it's quite wonderful once you learn that. So.
Do you think these have been
I don't think it's a secret. Well, I met some, I won't say who, I met one pro writer here, and well, actually a few, who were saying, hey, they said, hey, I'd never tell anybody, but I do that thing on minute 8. It just feels like I need to have something shocking there. And so I think some of them keep it a secret. Some, it's an instinctual thing. From, again, seeing so many movies, they know instinctively, like, oh, I have to have this little joking little moment here. So, yeah.
But this isn't to say that every movie needs to, this is, I think this is awesome, and I think you're absolutely right. But I don't think it's to say like every movie needs to be that way. You look at movies like, we just went to Cinema Paradiso last night.
Oh, I love that
That's
movie.
the great, it doesn't follow that kind of method.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because it's like, it starts with a phone call,
Right.
but it gives you the impressions of the village, it gives you the community, it gives you the family. Look, Lawrence of Arabia, maybe you've dissected Lawrence, but it takes its time in fleshing out this thing. It's not to say that
You'd be surprised. I came at things the exact same way as you. Very skeptical going into this.
Not skeptical, I think you're
Right.
absolutely right
Yeah.
in all these things, but I don't feel like you need to.
I challenge you.
uh,
Go home, rent both of those movies, and start watching it with a analytical eye. What are they doing in Lawrence of Arabia in the first couple minutes to keep you interested enough to want to get to the big battle scenes in the desert? And you're going to find that there's some kind of tension happening to grab your attention. So build to it. There's these little joke moments. I guarantee you're going to see this over and over. It's in the Paradiso as well. Now you have movies like Terrence Malick's, what was the one last year? Tree of Life, 2 years ago?
Tree of Life.
Now, he doesn't do the beats, and I applaud him if he wants to do a totally visual, beautiful movie. That's great. I love seeing movies like that. But is he going to connect with a mass audience? That movie, in reality, lost a lot of money for the production company that made it, the studio that made it. So he got his artistic vision, and to his credit, I applaud him, and he can keep making movies like that. Great, do it. But do you want to be successful financially? Do you want to make a living at it? Do you want to touch a mass audience? That's a decision that you have to make artistically. Go back there first.
with applying to television, does it matter, let's say it's a sitcom or a drama, would it matter whether it's a confined, like every episode is different, or an ongoing story? I mean, in terms of applying this to that format of TV?
Yeah, that's when I went, through Seinfeld episodes and Twilight Zone, like I told you before, or Dexter. Underneath is doing the exact same things over and over and over. It's a structural thing. It just as beginning, middle, and end is a universal common thing. But they're switching it up. It's like I liken it to a piano. Piano is so tightly structured. It has the white keys, it has the black keys on very specific points. But man, what you can do on that piano, you can create all this wildly different music, and the person playing it gets his own voice into it as well. You know what I mean? That's what happens with television or film. Every story is different, but underneath is that piano. The keys are still the same. Anybody else? Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. I love being with kindred spirits.